Hey, what's good with the YouTube? It's your boy Rojo, and this is Convict's Perspective, man. Man, I found a dope story, man, about a big homie from down south that got sentenced to life last year for taking out another big homie from down south. It's a good one, man. So check this out, man. This is from the LA Times. After an unusual trial, Mexican mafia member sentenced to life in prison. For cutting short the life of a fellow Mexican mafia member in a hail of bullets, a judge ruled Monday that Jose Luis Loza should spend the rest of his own life in a federal prison. Loza, who was from Whittier, was convicted of murder, racketeering, and other crimes after an unusual trial in August in which Loza himself testified for 2 days. It was an unprecedented departure, law enforcement officials say, from the Mexican mafia's historical refusal to acknowledge in the courtroom such an organization exists, let alone discuss its politics on the witness stand. The trial was a window into what is arguably the most powerful criminal organization in Southern California. It demonstrated how the Mexican mafia, most of those whose members are incarcerated, holds the region's Latino street gangs under its sway through a fear of and mythos, exacting a tax from virtually every dollar they make and using their members as foot soldiers for the syndicate. Loza, 41, was born in the Imperial Valley town of Brawley, the son of a machinist and a warehouse employee. He moved as a child to Whittier, and by the age of 13, Loza had testified he had been jumped into the Cantarana street gang, which was born in the late 1940s in neighboring Santa Fe Springs. At 19, Loza pleaded guilty to attempted murder and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. After flitting from facility to facility, he was transferred in 2001 to Pelican Bay State Prison's Secure Housing Unit, also known as the SHU. This is a wing that is reserved for the prison's most dangerous inmates and where, until a landmark 2015 settlement reformed the unit, the prison's Mexican mafia members were held. Inside of the SHU program, Loza met a very revered figure within his gang, David Gavaldan, a Mexican mafia member who controlled Cantaranas from his prison cell since the late 1980s, law enforcement authorities say. He has been incarcerated since 1984. Gavaldan was the first one to sit down and talk to me about joining, Loza testified. He was in his mid-20s then. Gavaldan, more than 20 years his senior, was a made man since 1985. The Mexican Mafia has about 140 members, drawn from Latino street gangs in Southern California. Because its members maintain control of their gangs after becoming made men, the Mexican Mafia's influence extends beyond the prison that holds most of its membership. In 2011, Loza was released from Pelican Bay. He took a job at a linen service in Chino, then a trucking company in Ontario. He made decent money, as much as $5,500 a month, prosecutors said. But even as he made short-haul deliveries for Gardner Trucking so as not to stray beyond the 50-mile radius imposed by his parole, Loza was trafficking drugs and overseeing the extortion of dealers in Cantarana's territory and ensuring the proceeds flowed to Gavaldan, according to evidence presented at his trial. As one of a few Mexican Mafia members who lived outside of prison, Loza was expected to handle Mafia business on the streets, including in early 2016, the issue of Dominic Solo Gonzalez, according to witnesses and evidence presented at the trial. Gonzalez grew up in Pacoima, the stepson of Frank Sapo Fernandez, a Mexican Mafia member who was serving a life sentence at the federal penitentiary in Florence, Colorado, which is part of the United States Bureau of Prisons that holds the nation's most dangerous inmates. Gonzalez, who spent much of his life in prison, was inducted into the Mexican Mafia inside of that Colorado penitentiary and released in 2015. Almost immediately, witnesses for both the prosecution and defense said Gonzalez began trying to stake a claim in the San Fernando Valley, which was divided at the time primarily among four mafia members. Members collect taxes and extortionate cuts from the proceeds of criminal activity in areas under their control. Remarkably, Thomas T. Bug Moreno, who is a current active member of the Mexican Mafia, testified in Loza's defense and described this taxation system to the jury. Sounds kind of suspicious, don't it? Let's just say, like in my neighborhood, if somebody's doing something there illegal, then I usually get something from whatever they're doing, whatever it may be, Moreno claims. Whether it's credit card scams, whether it's selling drugs, whatever, I get a percentage of it. Doesn't sound active to me, but hey, I'm on the outside looking in. If a Mexican Mafia member were to send an underling to collect from another man's territory, Moreno explained, you tell him to, get the hell out of there. You don't belong there. Go. And usually they'll go. And what would happen, a prosecutor asked, if they didn't? Oh, he's going to leave, Moreno said. He leaves. There's never been nobody that doesn't leave. Mexican Mafia members fumed to one another that Gonzalez was toe-stepping or encroaching on their territory, a government witness testified. Eric Garcia, a Florencia 13 gang member, said he facilitated conference calls with dozens of Mexican Mafia members who dialed in from prison cells on contraband phones to discuss the matter. They came to an agreement, Garcia said. Gonzalez had to go. Brazil? The evening of April 19, 2016, Loza testified, he met Gonzalez at the El Jalisco restaurant in Bassett. Loza brought along a young Cantarana's foot soldier, Leonardo Antolin. Gonzalez came with his right-hand man, Antonio Drupi Gueron. After talking over micheladas for about an hour, they paid the bill and shook hands. As they walked out the door, Loza pulled from his pocket a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson, and Antolin produced a Luger. Gonzalez was hit fatally in the head and chest. Gueron shot back. In the crossfire, a woman eating at the restaurant's patio was hit 6 times. Man. Loza, shot in the leg, stumbled to his Dodge Charger and sped off, flinging his revolver onto the 605 freeway. Loza insisted he was hit first and shot Gonzalez only in self-defense. Carol Chen, the assistant U.S. attorney who prosecuted Loza, called the killing a cold-blooded, calculated assassination, one he committed out of rabid insecurity and the need to prove himself. Loza, among the most junior members of the Mexican Mafia, murdered Gonzalez to raise his standing in the organization, another prosecutor wrote in court papers, pointing to the black hand, one of the syndicate's symbols that was inked behind his left ear after Gonzalez's death. Loza was arrested a month after the killing, the lead defendant in a 51-person racketeering indictment aimed at dismantling Cantaranas. Over the next 3 years, agents would flip several of Loza's associates, including Jorge Bouncer Gray, his close friend and cellmate, who testified that Loza bragged of putting a bullet in Gonzalez's head. Loza declined to address the court Monday. His family wept quietly as Chief U.S. District Judge Virginia A. Phillips sentenced him to life plus 30 years in prison. Loza nodded and appeared resigned to his fate, much as he had in a recorded phone call that Chen, the prosecutor, referenced at his trial. Chen asked if Loza, if he recalled saying, "It is what it is. I mean, at a young age, this is what I wanted. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be in the streets, and I stayed true." "You said that, right?" "Yes," Loza said. Man, that's a trip, bro. I don't know what kind of agreements were made about what could or could not be said by certain individuals who, were called in any fashion by the government. Can't speak on that. I don't know. You know what I mean? But very interesting case nonetheless, man. The thing with these gangs, bro, is there's rules that are made. And there's only 2 choices with rules: compliance or non-compliance. Now, these aren't like rules at work, in sports, in any other aspect of life. These rules come with life or death punishments. You know what I mean? And when you're like this dude said, he always wanted to be a gangster. You know, there's a lot of youngsters out there like that, and even people into their 20s and stuff. You know, they're youngsters to me that still have that thought in their head that, man, I'm going to be a gangster. It's going to be all this and that. I'm going to have respect. I'm going to have money. I'm going to have bitches, whatever the case might be. You probably get that for a while. But as I always say, as Flacco always says, as Gunner always says, as Boxer always says, Mundo, Cricket, anybody in this genre will tell you, there's going to be times when the lifestyle is rewarding. But ultimately, in the end, it's only going to leave you in the two places: dead or sitting on a level 4 maximum security yard for the rest of your life. That's it. It's just something to think about, man. Very interesting story. You know what I mean? If you're all about that gangster lifestyle, man, you might want to listen to this twice, because these are the kind of things that happen more often than not. You're not riding off into the sunset. You're not going to retire with a mansion in Beverly Hills or, you know, a high-rise, you know, $5 million condo in San Francisco. Your retirement's going to consist of dead or sitting in prison. It's just facts. It's your boy Rojo. It's a convict's perspective. Enjoy the rest of your day.